All right, Ben, what does a diamond, a doll, and a box have in common?
Things you don't want for Christmas.
These ones in particular, yes. If you ask most people, they're going to say nothing, right? These things don't have anything in common. But if you ask the people that owned them, they might tell you that they should have just left them alone. Welcome back, everybody, to the Disturbingly Interesting podcast. My name is Megan. With me is Ben.
Hello.
And from deadly jewelry to the world's creepiest toy and the worst eBay purchase ever. Tonight, we're going to talk about the gifts that keep on giving, cursed objects.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll start with three of, I don't know, I would say like arguably the most well-known cursed objects in the world. And then we're going to tell some scary stories.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. We'll start with I don't know, probably the least threatening seeming object on the list, a diamond. Because most people, when they think of cursed objects, they're not really thinking of jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular diamond might actually be one of the most infamous, allegedly cursed objects in the world, the Hope Diamond. Today, today it sits safely behind glass at a museum and millions of people have looked at it. But for over a century, people have repeated the same story about it. If you own or if you touch the Hope Diamond, bad shit's going to happen to you.
Interesting.
So the Hope Diamond itself is this like massive, deep blue diamond, and it weighs just over 45 carats today. And even if you don't really care about gemstones at all, which I'm not really a big gemstone person, but the people who have seen it, they describe it as just unreal looking. So the colors, the deep blue, comes from trace amounts of boron inside the crystal structure, and it gives it that like rich glowing appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently under ultraviolet light, it glows red, which probably doesn't help its cursed reputation at all. Mm-hmm. But in 1660, a French man, or a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Travanier, not 100% sure if that's right, he acquired the gem from a coal mine in India. And there are some stories that say that Jean-Baptiste actually stole the diamond from a sacred Hindu statue. So that, along with other unfortunate events that are associated with the diamond, started to create these rumors that there might be something wrong with this beautiful blue diamond. And the diamond's reputation of being cursed really took off when some newspaper articles started to connect the dots between people who have owned it and the tragic fates that fell upon them. So now we're going to talk about the trail of misfortunes and deaths that have followed the Hope Diamond. Starting with the gem guy, Jean-Baptiste Travanier. He came down with a severe illness after returning to France, and soon after, he passed away. But not before. He sold it to King Louis XIV, who then had it turned into had the uncut diamond turned into like this beautiful necklace. And then he died of gangrene. Nicholas.
Oh,
so I'll just preface this right now. I don't speak French, so a majority of these names are French, so I'm going to apologize right now. And Nicholas Fouquet, he is said to have worked with King Louis XIV and actually wore the diamond once for a special occasion. Shortly after, the king and Nicholas had a falling out, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Then King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, for all history people, I think we know what happened there. After inheriting the diamond, they were both killed during the French Revolution. And then Marie Louise, Princess de Lamballe, she was a member of Marie Antoinette's court, and she had worn the diamond necklace at some point, and of course died shortly after. During the mayhem of you'd think people would stop wearing the necklace, but I don't know. People just kept wearing it. But anyway, during the mayhem of the French Revolution, the diamond was stolen and it disappeared for many years until a Dutch jeweler named Wilhelm Falls came into possession of the diamond and was the one who recut and shaped the diamond to what it looks like today. So shortly after it was cut, Wilhelm's son tried to steal the diamond, and in the process ended up killing his father and himself. After that, the diamond disappeared for a really long time, but then it showed back up again in the early 1900s. It was purchased by a Greek merchant named Simon, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, who resold the diamond in 1910 and then drove his car off a cliff. In 1911, the diamond was purchased by Evelyn Walsh McLean. She was a rich socialite and the wife of the heir of the Washington Post. Shortly after she purchased it, things started to go downhill really fast. So in 1919, her son died at the age of 9. 1931, her husband left her for another woman, and then he died in a psychiatric hospital after being declared legally insane, leaving her the owner of the Washington Post. Her daughter died of a drug overdose in 1946, and she became so strapped for cash that she was eventually forced to sell the Washington Post to pay off some of her debts. And then in April 1947, Evelyn died from pneumonia at the age of 60. She had a bad. So I don't know. Would you wear this diamond? Would you come if somebody handed you this diamond, Ben? Would you be like, yeah, I'll take it?
I mean, it is a Hope diamond.
I'd think about it. But eventually the Hope diamond was donated to the Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C., where it remains today. When it was donated to the museum, it was literally shipped through the regular postal service. So there's no armored convoy. There was no security detail. It was just the regular old mail. And James Todd, the postal worker who delivered it, lived a perfectly normal life afterwards. Nothing ever happened to him.
See? It's not all bad.
See, you have that chance, right? You have that chance to be James Todd.
Right.
So that is the Hope diamond. Have you heard of the Hope diamond before?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Was that not what the diamond in Titanic was based off of?
I believe it was supposed to be, yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought when I was reading through this. I'm like, I feel like that was the Titanic one. All right. So with the Hope diamond, though, even though it was cursed, nobody really claimed that it moved on its own. And that's where the next one gets a little harder to explain. Because next, we're going to talk about a doll that apparently people write apology letters to on a regular basis. You might know this one a whole lot better than me. So unlike the Hope diamond, this next object feels more like what you would imagine, right? If you're thinking of a cursed object, and that is a doll. So I know dolls get a bad reputation. Most dolls are just dolls, but not this doll. This one is Robert the doll. Now, yes, Robert the doll. Probably one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. So currently, Robert lives in a museum in Key West, Florida, but the weirdness that is Robert the doll started way before people started actually saying that it was cursed. So his story starts more than 100 years ago. In the early 1900s, a boy named Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene, lived in Key West with his family. And apparently at some point, as a child, he was given a large handmade doll that was made by a German company, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Gene, he loved it. He loved that doll. Loved it so much that he named the doll Robert. And according to stories, that's when things started to get a little strange. Family members would later describe hearing Gene talking to the doll, which, I mean, I don't know. I've got kids. Kids talk to dolls all the time. So that in and of itself is not weird. But what is weird is they claimed that they would hear voices, different voices, answering him back. And when objects around the house would move or get knocked over or broken, Gene would blame it on Robert. He would say, Robert did it. Decades after his parents died, Gene and his wife, Anne, moved into his childhood home where Gene immediately reconnected, hanging out with his best friend, Robert. And immediately Anne was like, no, this doll's freaking me out. He's got to go. Lock him up in the attic, which Gene begrudgingly did. But apparently Robert did not like that too much. His neighbors would say they would see Robert in the windows of the attic, like looking down, and he seemed to would change places on occasion. After Gene died in 1974, new owners moved into the house, and they also reported strange experiences, footsteps, Robert moving on his own, hearing giggling, feeling like they're being watched, or noticing Robert's expression seemed to change. And eventually the doll would end up at the museum in Key West. And that's where Robert 2.0 legend starts. And that's the most well-known version of Robert's legacy, is when people started to come visit him at the museum. They claimed their cameras would malfunction. Their photos would come out looking strange and weird. They'd have bad luck afterwards. And they really just felt uneasy around his display case. And eventually a very strange tradition developed. People started asking permission to take Robert's picture. And if you didn't ask permission, rumor is bad stuff would happen. The museum eventually started receiving handwritten apology letters to Robert saying things like, my car broke down, I lost my job, I've been really bad luck, please tell Robert I'm sorry. You've seen Robert the doll, right?
Yeah.
Did you take his picture?
Yeah, and videos.
Did you ask first?
There was an understanding, I think, but no official asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you experience anything weird or creepy?
No. I feel like Robert knew that I was going to post him on the internet on a Florida ghost story page. And I feel like he wanted he wanted people to see him.
He wanted the recognition.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's even creepier.
No, the wall of letters is really funny though. So you have to pass by the wall of letters before you go into the exhibit. It's the museum that is in is an old fort from the pre-colonial days, the old Spanish fort. So you go through like the fort aspect of the museum, and then Robert is just in the back of this museum. So like the Robert exhibit is so disconnected from the rest of the museum, it doesn't really make any sense. But you see these like wall of letters, and it says like beware, like Robert the doll, like please ask permission, and then it gives you like the whole spiel behind him. But it is crazy how big it actually is. I was not expecting it to be that big.
The doll or the exhibit or both?
The doll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when they say life size, like that doll, if you stood it up, it's probably 4.5, 5 feet tall.
Oh my God. Like I knew it was big,
Yeah.
but I have not, I've heard about Robert, obviously, for quite some time. It is on my to-do list, my bucket list, to go down and visit him.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. And I would ask for permission. I don't always believe in everything, but I'm also not going to be one that presses my luck either.
You can get like a little mini one.
I would get it to go, Robert.
Yeah, that's what I call him. I was like, oh, you guys are Robert to go?
It's a fun size, Robert.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was Robert. He's probably considered, I would say, like, again, one of the most infamous cursed objects. But at least our friend Robert, he comes with 100 years of stories, right? Our next object became famous of a much more modern way, and that was off of eBay. I'm calling this segment...
The big box?
Yes, but I'm calling this segment, What's in the Box? Because next we're going to open a box, and according to the people who have owned it, that is going to be a huge mistake. So the first time I ever heard this story, I think was probably originally when it came out. I think it was on like one of those Discovery Channel shows or whatever, and I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But in 2001, Kevin Manis purchased a group of items at an estate sale from an elderly woman who had passed away. While he was paying, the granddaughter of the woman, she points to the small wooden wine cabinet and says, "Oh, I see you bought the Dybbuk box." And Kevin was like, "What does that mean?" And the granddaughter was like, I have no idea. That's just what Granny called it. And then she said that Grandma had this had this thing from back when she was a kid in Poland. And even after she was taken to a concentration camp and gotten out, survived it, she managed to keep possession of this box and bring it to America with her. It was a fairly small cabinet type box, so it has like 2 doors that open, and inside you could store like a wine bottle and some glasses. So Kevin, he's like, holy cow, that's a hell of a story. This must have a lot of meaning and value to your family. I don't need it. Why don't you just keep it? The granddaughter refused. She's like, nope, you bought it. It's yours. And Kevin notices that it's locked and there's no key. So he asks the granddaughter, and she said, well, it's always been locked. It's supposed to stay locked. That's what Grandma wanted. No one is supposed to open it. And in fact, she actually wanted it to be buried with her, but that was against the Jewish Orthodox religion. So now Kevin is like, yeah, there's no way I can keep this. Just take it back. And the granddaughter changes from this, sweet, pleasant person to a more defensive and aggressive person. She says, no, you bought it. You own it. Basically, it's your problem now, buddy. So he's like, okay.
Like, get this the fuck out.
Right. No, it's yours. Not it. So after Kevin gets back to his antique shop, he cleans it up, opens it up and finds some weird trinkets and some Hebrew writing, but has no idea what any of it means. So he's just like, adds to the charm. And that's when shit really started to go south. So one of his employees ended up being locked in the basement and was scared shitless while she was alone. All of the light bulbs started exploding and stuff started being knocked over, and he'd hear footsteps like somebody was walking around down there, but there was nobody there. Kevin, he gifted this box to his mom. It was her birthday. And he's like, oh, I think she'll like it. Gifted it to his mom, and she immediately had a stroke. So then he ended up selling it to a few people through the antique shop, but would come back the next day and see it sitting outside the front door the next morning with some kind of a note that would say something like, we've changed our minds. You can have it back. So finally he brings it home because, no one else will take it. And he starts having these crazy vivid dreams of being like assaulted by this creepy old woman. And he'd wake up with scratches on him and bloodshot eyes. And so he needed to find out somehow, like, what is wrong with this box? What is happening? So somehow, I'm not really certain or clear, the granddaughter gets him in touch with somebody back in Poland, like a friend or somebody who knew what was up with this box. And that's when he finds out that Grandma and her friends conjured up a Dybbuk when they were teenagers and then locked it in this box. They sealed it away with those trinkets and those Hebrew words that were in the box. They did not do it on purpose. It was like teenage girls playing with a Ouija board, and shit went wrong, and then they wanted to fix it by capturing the Dybbuk and locking it away before it could wreak havoc on people's lives.
Oh no. I love it when we accidentally try to conjure demon and demons are real.
Right. Oh shit. Whoops. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
If you want a demon, that's how you get a demon. So what is a Dybbuk, you ask? And that's a great question. According to our friends over at Britannica.com, a Dybbuk in Jewish folklore is a disembodied human spirit that, because of former sins, wanders restlessly until it finds a haven in the body of a living person. So essentially, it possesses somebody. Belief in such spirits was especially prevalent in the 16th and 17th century of Eastern Europe, and often individuals suffering from nervous or mental disorders were taken to a miracle-working rabbi who alone, it was believed, could be the only one that could expel this harmful Dybbuk through the religious rite of exorcism. So you can about imagine, at this point, Kevin, he's a little freaked out, and he wants this Dybbuk box gone. So he does the only sensible thing you could do in this situation. You list it on eBay. In the description, he tells the whole backstory, everything, just lays it all out on the table. He's like, if someone's going to buy this, they need to know what's going to happen. So humans being humans, several people would end up purchasing the Dybbuk box. Like somebody would purchase it, would claim they had all these crazy experiences, and then they would relist it on eBay with the original story plus their own. And this went on a couple times until it got the attention of a museum owner named Jason Paxton, who purchased the box and created the website called dybbukbox.com that told all of these stories as well as the history of the box, which turned it into this internet legend. Paxton later sold the rights to a Hollywood filmmaking company who later made the movie Possession, which was based on this story. And then he finally sold it to Douchebaggins to put in his Las Vegas Haunted Museum, where it remains to this day. It's a crazy story, but it's not over yet, because this whole story has a very, very weird and a little sad twist at the end. In 2021, Kevin Mannis, the original owner, did confess that he made up the whole story as part of a creative writing project. He did buy the box at an estate sale, but everything else about it was made up. But there are people who claim to have come into contact with this box and have had negative experiences. So I guess it does beg the question of whether or not, are the objects really haunted? So like, is the Hope Diamond haunted? Is Robert haunted? Is the Dybbuk box haunted or cursed? Or is the story so powerful that people will just manifest their own bad luck, which is what I believe. Again, I'm not going to tempt fate. Like, I don't want any of these.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you know the story
mm-hmm.
and you go in with the expectation that you're going to have a shitty experience,
right,
that's what's going to happen. You're going to have a shitty experience.
There's actually a lot of really weird early psychology research in like the late 70s, early 80s, where they were trying to figure out like the power of like the human mind and how it can actually influence your reality, right? And so one of the experiments they did, experiments loosely, they got away with a lot in the late 70s, but they effectively told this group of people about like a spirit that didn't exist. They took a photo of someone's son that was on the research team and said, like, this kid is dead. Like, he is possessed this table. Go in there and perform a seance. And they started getting really weird phenomenon happening in the room that they could actually capture. Like, in a few instances, the table like bumped up. And so like their whole thing was like human consciousness can create energy that it's unaware of.
That's crazy. I think I remember hearing something about that. Didn't they also get like EVPs?
Yeah.
And it was like confirming like a made up story.
Yes.
I do remember hearing that. That is crazy. And it's called like, you can, I'm trying to think of the name of like some kind of energy that is created because like a lot of people, a tulpa, because like a lot of people believe in it. So we like believe it to life.
Yeah, I genuinely think there's something to that. And the more ghost stories that I pull out of my brain, tell on the internet, the more I believe it. Because every time I'll come up with something that I think is so insane, no one will believe me. Every time somebody messages me, they're like, this happened to me. And I'm like, no, it didn't. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Not.
I made that up. But yeah, no, it's crazy.
Well, and there's lots of different like internet, thank God bless the internet, like cryptids even.
Yeah, like Slenderman.
Yeah, Slenderman.
It's real now.
Yeah,
it is now. It killed somebody.
I was gonna say, no, it's killed people. Same with like the rake.
Yeah.
And was the other one? Siren Head.
Yeah.
And a lot, it's crazy to me how, like, I mean, people really, really, truly believe that I caught the rake on video.
Right. And who am I to say they're wrong?
Right?
Maybe
I
they're,
mean,
yeah.
maybe it did come from somewhere.
I'm just like, all right.
Yeah. And I don't know. I remember when I was younger, my mom would buy these porcelain dolls. I hate dolls. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. She would buy these porcelain dolls. And then, of course, would be like, I bought them for your guys' rooms, and then put them in my sister and my room or whatever. And, you know, I can see why people think that dolls' expressions change or that they're like looking at you, because I swear to God, it looked like those eyes were following me around the room all the time. You know, and now as an adult, I know, I understand what's happening. But as a kid, I'm be like, that fucking thing is watching me. And it creeped me out. No more dolls.
Don't blame me.
All right. So that is the 3, I guess I'm proclaiming to be the most infamous objects, cursed objects. You have your own cursed object you'd like to talk about, right?
Yeah. So I have a story about a cursed mirror, cursed scrying mirror specifically. But I thought the history of scrying mirrors and their overlap with the paranormal was an interesting introduction to the story itself. And so mirrors, there's really nothing scary about them in general, right? We use them to brush our teeth in front of, put on makeup, shave, do our hair. We glance at it and we go, right? There's plenty of horror stories around mirrors, because I think it is something a little bit deeply unsettling about there's not really many places where you can see yourself. If you really break it down in life, reflections and mirrors kind of exist in this liminal space that you're passing a lot of the time, but you're never really recognizing, right? And so I think standing in front of a mirror, you are acknowledging that you are staring back at a reflection of yourself, but it doesn't quite seem like yourself. Like, you always look a little bit different in the mirror than you do in photos, right? And so I think there's this disconnect between, is that really me? So there's a lot of mythos around mirrors, like, is that another version of myself, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is where it gets interesting, because mirrors historically were used for divination, right? And not necessarily in the superstitious way, but in the way that it was ritualized. People would go to these, forget the word, witches, basically, in Greece. They have a specific word for ancient Greece people. I just wrote ancient Greek witch person. I probably should have wrote the actual good real word down in my notes.
Ancient Greek. Okay, I'm Googling it. Hold on. Ancient Greek witch person.
Like, an oracle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So people in ancient Greece would go to oracles, and they would ask these oracles about their future, specific questions. Will I marry Hercules down the street? The oracle would look into a mirror and talk to their reflection, basically, being able to see the fates, the world, your story in the mirror. And so I think for a lot of history, mirrors started growing the superstition because they were used for spiritual purposes. And so the superstition wasn't necessarily horrifying, but similar to, I guess, like the crown of thorns is to Catholics, right? Yeah. There's this object that is deeply divine. Now, what do you do if you now have one, right? And so it gets a little bit more interesting when you dive into some of the like more Mesoamerican practices with mirrors. And this is where the typical tradition of a scrying mirror, I think, that we picture today really comes from. Because in Central and South America, for colonialism, they would polish volcanic glass, right? So they had these mirrors of obsidian, pure black, flat surface, staring into the abyss, used for the same purposes as the ancient Greek oracles. They were asking their gods, their deities, their spirits, questions of hidden knowledge, basically. And so in Mesoamerica, the way to use a scrying mirror really mattered on the actual material itself. So scrying mirrors today, for the most part, if you look on like TikTok Shop, Etsy, if you Google it, you're going to see what looks like a black obsidian mirror. And so that comes out of Central America. And so these mirrors today still exist, right? There are a lot of modern made obsidian mirrors, but there's also a lot of antique obsidian mirrors you can find. I have seen a few. They freak me out. I was at a NFT store down here in Florida, and they had you can immediately know looking at an obsidian mirror if it's antique or not. I don't know how to describe it, but there's something about the way they polished it that seems to just collect the light. Whereas like
you can tell it's not from Temu.
Yeah, whereas like newer obsidian mirrors, they just look like black glass. Like you can tell the glass is clear and there's just like black underneath it.
That makes sense.
Whereas the older ones, you're just kind of like, that is deeply unsettling. And so the story that I have today is from a girl named Natalie who received an antique scrying mirror for graduation. And so this is Natalie's story. She's also a local Floridian. I got the mirror as a graduation gift. I know that sentence sounds normal. People give mirrors all the time, decorative ones, vintage ones, expensive ones, and ones that smell like cedar from your grandma's closet. But this mirror was different. My aunt had found it at an estate sale in St. Augustine, of all places. She said the woman running the sale told her it belonged to someone who used to do, quote, spiritual work, which my aunt thought sounded mysterious and elegant. She told me that the woman called it a scrying mirror. Like it was something that I would understand at the time. It was small enough to hold in one hand, maybe 3 inches tall, an oval shape, but it felt heavy. Heavier than it should have been. Almost like a dumbbell in my hand. The glass itself was dark. Not tinted, but dark. Me, being a lover of all things spooky, loved it immediately. This was at the time I was moving into my first apartment alone, and I was really proud of that. In school, I had always had roommates, but I put the mirror on my dresser, and for the first few nights, nothing happened. But then I started noticing that this mirror didn't reflect my room correctly. At first, it was small things. I would walk past it and catch a glimpse of my bedroom, except the closet door would look open. I would turn around, and it'd be closed. Or the bedspread would look rumpled in the glass, but it was fully made, and vice versa. And one time stuck out to me. I was walking past it and noticed something glimmering out from the mirror, almost like it was reflecting a light from the lamp across the room. But the lamp was off. I blamed everything: drugs, alcohol, the old glass, shadows, and being exhausted from my new big girl job. But then things started to move. Things started to make sounds in my room. I would look at the mirror and notice something off and hear a tap. Not necessarily from around the mirror, but from somewhere in my room. I would notice that my closet door would be open in the mirror and closed in real life, but tap would come from my closet. I'd walk over, open the door, and there would be no one there. But the most unsettling thing, and the last thing I ever saw in the scrying mirror, was myself. I woke up one night and sat up in bed because, spoiler, I heard a tap coming from the mirror this time. It was dark in my room, but I could see in the mirror like my room was lit up. I was staring at myself. I was horrified, though. The version of myself in this mirror was just smiling, with eyes unblinking, almost like a lion waiting for the gazelle to lay back down their head. I grabbed the mirror and immediately walked it outside to the dumpster. I've never seen it since. I don't, unfortunately, have any experience with the cliche of haunted objects coming back. But now, I don't accept antique gifts, and I never want to look at a scrying mirror ever again. That is Natalie's story.
That's creepy.
Yeah. It was a pretty short one that got sent. I was like, that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah. Ugh. That is creepy. Yeah, the mirrors are like, I don't know, like you said, there's just they're one of those things that like, they just make you uncomfortable. You know, even people used to be like, I'm just going to throw a sheet over it or something. I don't want things looking at me.
That's still pretty common in a lot of cultures. Like, at least in American, like a lot of like Appalachian regions, they'll throw mirrors, or they'll throw sheets over mirrors during like wakes, like before a funeral. I think like the most common mythology is it's like supposed to like accidentally capture the soul. And so if you're a ghost leaving this world and you run across a mirror that's uncovered, you'll get trapped in it. And that's pretty common in like a lot of different cultures, actually.
Yeah, I know I had heard at one, and I don't remember which, like where this came from, but you can't put 2 mirrors like across from each other.
Ooh, have you heard of the 3 Kings ritual?
Uh-uh.
So there is this ritual. I don't know like all the specific details, and granted, it did start as like a no sleep story, so take it with a grain of salt. However, it is on my bucket list to try this. So the vague rules of it are at 3 in the morning. Okay, we'll start before. So you set up in your room 3 chairs in like a T. You put a candle right here. You would sit here, and in these 2 mirrors or these 2 chairs, you put mirrors facing each other. And so you set an alarm. You go out there at 3 in the morning and light the candle, and you sit in this chair. You just have like 2 mirrors, like on this side of you, but you're not allowed to look into either mirror.
Oh my God.
And so you're just sitting in an all dark room, a candle in front of you, and the stories people have. So the whole point of this ritual is you are allowed to ask any questions. One mirror can lie to you, one cannot. And so some people report seeing visions in their periphery in these mirrors. They report voices, like whole people appearing in these mirrors. And it is terrifying because the whole warning is if you look in the mirror, something will go wrong. What that means is so open-ended.
Right?
Yeah.
I see. I don't like that for a lot of different reasons. One of which is I would look in the mirror, not even like on purpose.
Right.
Just, and the other one, I have like such an overactive imagination that even if nothing happened in my head, shit's going down.
Well, that's what a lot of people have said about it, because like the original story was written and the dude had like a wild night doing it. And so like other people across the internet have tried doing it. And a lot of people are just saying like this is actually like a form of therapy where like you project your subconscious into these mirrors and you don't realize it. So I don't know. A lot of people are saying you're going to see something, whether it's paranormal or not. And I don't know if I could handle that personally.
No. Nope. I could not handle that.
But I'm going to try it at some point in my life.
Let me know how it goes. Let me know what you see, what you hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. I also didn't do like a lot of those things. We don't do Ouija boards. I don't do Ouija boards. Even at sleepovers as a teenager, no Ouija boards. The one thing I did do was the Bloody Mary thing where you go in the bathroom and like shut the lights off and then say it in the mirror. And I was like immediately when the lights went out was already on a 10. And was like, I can't do this.
No, I'm working with like a local haunted house owner. We are trying to figure out how to perfect the jump scare. And so have you seen A Haunting of Hill House?
Yes.
Remember when Nell comes up from between the seats in the car? So we are trying to set up a fake bathroom under the premise of you go in, like you put your hands on the table and we like walk you through like the Bloody Mary ritual. And so without using like a screen, like we want to use a real mirror, we are trying to figure out how to hide a scare actor from reflecting in the mirror. So you do Bloody Mary, lights come back on, nothing there, and then someone's head just pops in between you and the other person in the bathroom and screams. And then the lights drop.
That's cruel, Brent. That's cruel.
I think it would be probably the best jump scare of all time, because I feel
it would
like
be an awesome jump scare.
Yeah, like whenever people try to do mirror effects, you can tell it's a TV screen. And so we're trying to figure out how to get like funky with the angles to be able to hide someone in real life so it just looks like a normal mirror. Because I think if I went into that not knowing what was going to happen, I would be like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I would be, I'd probably have a heart attack and die. For someone who loves creepy shit and like paranormal and spooky stuff, I don't always like to, I don't really want to experience it. Yeah. I do want to live in a haunted house though. Yeah. No. That would be awesome. Like not a bad haunted house, but like a fun one. A fun haunted house. Okay. So my story is is about creepy dolls. And I hate dolls. Everything about them is terrible. Also, many, many different cultures and belief systems believe that the reason dolls are so horrible is because they're vessels. They can be vessels for roaming spirits, maybe even a Dybbuk. Who knows? So they could be vessels. So who knows? Who knows what the hell will haunt these dolls or live inside them? So this one is about a creepy doll. I've camped alone in remote places for years without incident. I hike trails that most people won't touch. I spend more nights than I can count listening to the woods creak and whisper outside my tent. But last October, I found something that changed all of that. I'd gone for a quick overnight trip to a stretch of forest that I'd been using for years. It was the kind of place that was perfect. isolated, no other campers, and miles from the nearest road. Just the kind of silence you can only get when you're truly alone. It was late afternoon when I started gathering firewood, the sun already sinking behind the trees, casting long shadows through the pines. And that's when I noticed the mound of dirt. It was near an old abandoned fire ring. It looked like it hadn't been used in years. It was a small pile of disturbed earth, and from where I was, it looked like something pale was sticking out of it. At first I thought it was a bone. Maybe it was an animal grave. I walked over to it and brushed some of the dirt away with my boot, and instantly felt my stomach drop. It was a doll. The thing was filthy. Its dress was shredded and rotted. One of its glass eyes was missing. But the weirdest part was how carefully it had been buried. Not tossed or dropped, but placed, like someone had laid it to rest. I should have left it there. Every instinct told me to walk away, to cover it up, pretend like I had never seen it. But curiosity got the better of me. I crouched down and pulled it free from the earth. As I brushed the remaining dirt away, my hand started to shake. The face was disturbingly realistic. The skin was smooth porcelain like you'd expect. It had a faint texture, like pores that had been painted on with unnatural precision. The lips were glossy, like they'd been wet only seconds ago, and the remaining glass eye was still shiny considering it had been covered in dirt. It was one of those dolls that was supposed to look realistic, and it did. The damn thing was so close to looking human that my brain wanted to accept it, but I knew it was wrong. Every instinct screamed at me to put it down, but I didn't. I tried a few times to put it back where I found it and walk away, but each time it just felt wrong, like I was abandoning a helpless child. I never played with dolls growing up, but I have a niece that treats her dolls as if they were real human babies. So maybe I wasn't too far off in feeling that way. I put it in my pack and carried it back to camp anyway, telling myself it was just an interesting find, a conversation piece, something to show my friends. That night, the forest went completely silent. I'd been camping in these woods for years. I knew the sounds. The distant hoot of owls, the rustle of small animals in the underbrush, the constant chorus of crickets and the night insects. The wind always moved through the pines with a soft whisper. But that night, there was nothing. Not a single sound. Just a heavy, oppressive stillness that pressed against the tent walls like it was something physical. The air felt thick, and it was almost hard to breathe. I told myself it's just an off night, weather patterns and animal migrations and, something rational. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was holding its breath, maybe waiting for something to happen. When I was finally able to fall asleep, I was immediately engulfed in a nightmare. I was back at the burial site, but the mound was much larger, big enough for a child. A small voice whispered right against my ear, "It's mine." I could feel the cold breath on my neck. When I jerked awake in the gray pre-dawn light, my heart was hammering, and the doll was lying next to my sleeping bag. Its uncanny face was inches from mine, the remaining eye staring directly at me. I know I didn't take it out of my pack. I shoved it deep inside and zipped it closed. But there it was, positioned like it had been watching me sleep all night. I grabbed my gear and hiked out before the sun was fully up, not even bothering to make coffee. The doll went back into my pack, and I told myself I must have been sleepwalking. It was stress or, a bad dream. It was something rational. And that should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. When I got back home, I put the doll in my garage, tucked it onto a high shelf between the camping equipment and paint cans. I kept telling myself to just throw the damn thing away, but something stopped me every time I reached for it. Maybe it was the guilt about disturbing what was clearly meant to be some kind of burial. Maybe it was superstition. Maybe it was something else. The first night back, I woke up at 3 a.m. to my dog whining. Not his usual, "I need to go out and pee" whine. This was different. He was anxious and afraid. I looked out the bedroom window into the backyard, and for just a moment, I thought I saw a small figure standing there at the tree line, barely visible in the darkness. I blinked and it was gone. It was a trick of the shadows, I told myself. My eyes were adjusting to the dark. It was nothing. The next evening, my neighbor caught me getting the mail. "Your niece is adorable," she said, smiling. "I saw her playing in your yard yesterday evening." My niece wasn't visiting. They live in Florida, 10 hours away. When I told her that, her smile faltered. She looked uncomfortable, like she'd said something wrong. Oh, I must have been mistaken. The light was fading, and she trailed off, made some excuse to go back inside. But I saw the way she looked at my house as she walked away. On the third night, I woke to crying outside my window. It was soft, muffled, like a child trying not to be heard, like someone who'd been taught that crying brought punishment, so they learned to weep silently. I laid frozen in my bed, listening. The sound was coming from my backyard, just below my window. When I finally worked up the courage to look, I pulled the curtain aside with my hands, but the yard was empty. It was just the grass, shadows, the dark tree line beyond. The next morning, my dog was frantically scratching at the back door before I was even fully awake. And this, again, wasn't his usual I need to go out. It was desperate and frenzied. Like he was trying to get to something. His nails were scraping gouges in the wood, even. When I opened the door, he bolted into the yard, nose to the ground, tracking something in a wide, agitated circle, sniffing and searching, following a trail I couldn't see. He kept looking up at me, confused and distressed, like he was asking why I couldn't smell it too. That night I woke up again to the crying. Only this time I wasn't the only one who heard it. My dog was at the bedroom door growling, low in his throat, his hackles raised in a ridgeline down his spine. His teeth were bared and his growl held a note I'd never heard before. It was not aggression, more like fear. I got out of bed and followed him downstairs. He was fixated on the back door, that same terrible growling, rumbling coming from his chest. I opened the door just a crack. A small figure stood at the edge of the yard, where the grass meets the trees, maybe 30 feet away. At first, in the darkness, I thought it was just a trick of the shadows again. But then she stepped forward, into the pale light from my porch. A little girl, no more than 7 or 8. Dirt was caked across her face and matted in her hair, which hung tangled in clumps around her shoulders. Her dress was filthy and torn. It looked like the same rotted fabric as the doll's. I noticed she was clutching the doll in her arms, rocking it gently, humming something tuneless. I stood frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. This little girl looked exactly like the doll, or the doll looked exactly like her, and then her head snapped toward me with a movement that was so fast her neck should have broken. Even from 30 feet away, I could see her eyes, one so shiny it reflected the porch light, and the other, an empty socket that looked like it was packed with dirt from a fresh grave. Her mouth opened slowly, and she mouthed the words, "That's mine." I slammed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely work the deadbolt. My dog pressed against my legs, still growling, his whole body trembling. The crying continued all night. Sometimes it was close right outside the window, sometimes distant from the trees. Sometimes it was sounding like it was coming from inside the walls. When I looked out in the morning, the yard was empty. No footprints in the dew-wet grass. No sign anyone had been there at all. I went to the garage and the doll was gone. I tried to convince myself I'd been hallucinating. Stress, lack of sleep, maybe even carbon monoxide poisoning. But I couldn't explain the missing doll, or my neighbors seeing a child, or my dog's terror. 3 days later, I drove back to the forest. I had to know if I had imagined it, if the doll had somehow ended up back there where I had found it. The drive took 2 hours, and with every mile the sense of dread grew heavier. The sky was overcast, threatening rain, and the forest looked darker than I remembered. I hiked to the old campsite, to the abandoned fire ring. The mound was there, but now it was sitting next to a hole, surrounded by fresh dirt from where someone had been digging recently. It wasn't a large hole, but it wasn't really a small one either. It was child size. My heart stopped and my body froze at that realization. I didn't dig. I didn't investigate. I turned around and I walked back to my car, forcing myself not to run, trying to ignore the feelings surrounding me of being watched from the trees. For a week after that, things were quiet. There was no crying, no shadows in the yard. My dog stopped acting strange. I'd almost convinced myself it was over, that returning to the forest had somehow completed or appeased whatever cycle I had disrupted. But last night I woke up to something sitting on the end of my bed. It was small. I maybe would have thought it was my dog if it hadn't been rocking back and forth with a gentle, rhythmic creaking. I laid there in the darkness, too terrified to move, listening to that soft rocking motion, back and forth and back and forth. When I finally reached for the lamp, my hand was shaking so bad I nearly knocked it over. The light flickered on. The doll sat on a blanket at the foot of my bed, mud caked in its matted hair, both eye sockets now empty and filled with dark earth. The glossy lips were curved in a smile that I didn't remember it having. And just beyond, in the dark corner of my room, where the lamplight couldn't reach, I could hear breathing, small, shallow breaths, and a voice, soft as a whisper. "I told you, it's mine."
Wow, that was incredible.
Well, thank you.
Simultaneously made me angry at the protagonist and terrified.
I actually did find a doll buried in the woods while I was out on a hike. I did not touch it. I did not do anything that this person did. But I oftentimes thought to myself, I wondered what would have happened if I had.
Nice little what if.
Creepy dolls get me every time. You heard about like the doll island in Mexico?
Yeah.
Or Island of the Dolls. I'm sorry, Island of the Dolls in Mexico.
Yeah, no thanks. Have
There's
you
not
heard of
one thing about that I want.
Harold the doll? Yeah. I don't know if I should tell you to look it up or not. So the lore of Harold the doll, and I'm pretty sure it's Zach Bagans, unfortunately, who popularized this. So whenever I post about Robert the doll, inevitably my comment section gets flooded with, "I'm so sorry, Robert, for looking at you like I claim no negative energy." And I think that response stems from the mythos around Harold the doll. So apparently Harold the doll, even if you so much as look at a photo of him without his okay, he'll come haunt you.
Oh, wow. That seems extreme. I don't think I've heard about that. That is crazy, though.
Might be one of the creepiest looking dolls I've ever seen.
All right. Well, now I'm going to have to Google it. Harold the doll, you say. You know the other doll that is just craziness to me? Annabelle.
Yeah.
And not like, I mean, the backstory, all that stuff is crazy. And people, people can feel about the Warrens how they want to.
Right.
But was it like last year when somebody like took Annabelle on a tour, like around the country?
Yeah, it was that one comedian, right? Matt Rife.
Yeah. And there was somebody else that did it too, or was involved in it in some way and died.
Yeah. Like day one, right?
And I'm like, I don't mean to be cold, but what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, what did you...
Right.
Like,
and then
there's nothing but stories that say, don't touch this doll.
Right. And then didn't she go missing for a couple of days during the tour? Yeah.
Yeah, and then she ended up with Matt Rife, and then...
I cannot believe we let an internet comedian buy the Warren collection.
That is, like, disturbing to me. Like,
yeah.
Really? It's kind of like that, like, U.S. Ghost Adventures or whatever. Like, that corporate ghost tour conglomerate that, like, is buying up all of the...
Ghost stories, yeah.
Ghost stories and such.
Yeah, I don't like those
the
people.
Axe Murder House. They bought the Lizzie Borden house.
Yeah, and I crossed their paths in Savannah. There's like ghost tour turf wars happening in Savannah right now because like ghost tour, like U.S. ghost tours companies like trying to like buy up all of like the small mom and pop ones.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know this lady that does the ghost tours in Duluth, Minnesota, the Duluth ghost tours. And they're really, really cool. Like, I think she has like a theater degree or something like that. Like, it's just fun. Like, it's fun history, and she dresses up, and it's such a good time. And she was telling me that like this ghost tour place is like now in Duluth, and she's like they've never been here before, but she like if you go on their website or whatever, they'll say they've got all these 5-star reviews. She's like they've never even been here. And then in where I'm from, which is probably like the least interesting place in the world, we finally got like a local ghost tour, like walking ghost tour. And it was really fun. But now they're here. The U.S. Ghost Adventures Tour place is here. And it's like, God, I ruin everything.
Yeah. No, they weird me out. They email me every once in a while, like asking me if I can like write stories for them. I was like, no. Like
do your own stories.
Yeah. And then they have a podcast now too.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and apparently they've reached out to like a lot of like paranormal-esque TikTokers to try to get on there.
I don't go on TikTok that much, but I was on TikTok the other day, or maybe it was today. I don't know. But my algorithm brought me to the paranormal drama that is happening.
There's a lot.
I didn't realize that there was such tension in the paranormal world. I thought, we're all just here to talk about ghosts and such, but that is not the case.
You're like one of 3 people I've met through doing this that I don't think is like the worst human being in the world.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Most of them, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. They're super territorial. Most of them make shit up and then get mad when you call them out on it. And yeah, there's like weird camps too, where like every once in a while, like one of them like slide into my DMs and straight up ask me like, are you on this person's side or this person's side? I'm like, what is going on? I was like, I'm 31 and have a job. What team are you on?
I don't care about your teams. I did see something like, so on Facebook, I follow a lot of like local ghost hunters or not local to me, but like smaller ones local to their area. I like to see their stuff. They're not at that point yet where they're annoying, where they're just going in and filming everything and be like, oh my God, what's that creak? Oh my God, what's that?
And those are honestly like the best ones too.
Oh, I love them. I love watching their stuff. And they're not like highly produced or edited either. Some of them will just set a camera down and just let it run for like 2 hours. Like I love watching that stuff. But some of them were talking about, this sounds so strange to say because I'm talking about adults, but like somebody was going on somebody else's page and like talking shit about them and like
Mm-hmm.
saying that they're like their group is make shit up, and I'm like, what is happening? What is happening in this? Like, I don't understand why I didn't realize
Yeah.
how
There was
crazy those people are.
So you know how like
Some of those people.
Instagram and Meta, like if you block one account now, it'll block every account associated with that person. I blocked a random annoying account on Instagram a few weeks back. And then I got a message on TikTok from this person. They're like, "Oh, why'd you block me on Instagram?" I was like, "Oh, that's funny. I didn't, but I did block a random account that was harassing me."
Oh, wow.
And then I unblocked that account. And funny enough, guess who is now unblocked? I was just like, "Why were you fucking harassing me from a burner account? You fucking weirdo."
Right?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Right. And I was just like, "What the fuck?"
I don't know. It was a strange time to be alive.
Yeah. I don't know. That person is now blocked on everything. So I was just like, "What are we even doing, man?" Like,
It's like somebody you know, or just like a random person.
it was like a mutual in like the spooky place that I'd never super interacted with outside of like a few, like every once in a while they would like send me videos. I'm like, "Oh, like, what are your thoughts on that?" But then I just, yeah, one day I was like, "Who the fuck is this random ass account?" Like it was a faceless, no name, didn't follow anybody account. I was like, I think it's just like a bot going into my Instagram comments. And so I blocked it. And then on TikTok, they're like, "Hey, like I tried to like message you on Instagram and it said like account not found." I was like, "Huh?" And it was like, I was like, "I didn't block you or anything." Like, I was like, "But that is wild because like when I go to find your account, it says like account blocked." And I couldn't unblock it because that wasn't the account I had originally blocked. So I went through my block list and I was just like, "I'm just going to unblock this random account." And it unblocked the account. I was like, "Oh." And so I messaged them. I was like, "Why were you like?" I sent them a screenshot of it. I was like, "Was this you?" And then I didn't hear from them. They just read it. I was like, "Okay, I'm blocking you on all platforms now."
And now you're blocked again.
Because I was just like, "What?" Also, like, I feel like you had to have known what happened.
Right?
Yeah.
And then to like reach out.
Yeah. And I was like, "That's
why did you block me?"
yeah, sure." But I was like, "That's crazy." I was like,
Yeah.
whatever.
I don't know. I'm too skittish on social media. Like, I don't talk to anybody else. So like, I talk to you and like maybe one or two other people that like I actually know in real life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like, everything's a scam.
I've started hitting that phase where like people I know in real life that have no idea I do anything online have started finding my videos and coming up to me in person. And they're like, "Oh, I saw this video." And I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
that's
just pretend like I don't do that.
That is this. I never know how to feel about it. I try to keep this very separate from my job.
Yeah.
Just it's not in any way related at
Right.
all, and there's just no reason. I work in a dull corporate environment, and somebody found out.
As one does.
And while we were in a meeting with many other people,
diabolical,
brings it up. And I'm like,
did you fight?
No.
I'm like parking lot now.
Well, this person is a higher ranking person than me, so that would be like we call a career limiting move. But I was like, I don't know how to react to this. Like, I don't like, it's just something I do, right? Like on the side,
Right.
like it's not a big deal. We don't have to talk about it. I don't know. It's cool that people like it. Yeah. I think it's cool that people like it, and it's cool that people follow. But it's just more fun to do now that it's like you can see, especially if you go back and look at original stuff, the first stuff versus now. It's like, okay, I am getting better. I am doing better.
Right.
So all is well. Awesome. Should we end it for tonight? All right. That's our show tonight. Thank you everybody for watching. Are cursed objects real? Do we think they're real? Do we think they're not real? I want to know if people have, what's the strangest thing you own? What's the weirdest thing you own? Is there a story attached to it? Did you keep it or did you regift it to someone else?
If you're regifting an object that you think is cursed,
shame on you. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody for listening. Hope to see you back next week for more disturbingly interesting content just like this. You have to say toodles.
Oh, toodles.
Toodles. Awesome.